everyone, and welcome to Boston Balling. I'm your host, Gabby Hurlbut. Happy Tuesday. Hope everyone's off to a great start to the week, Taco Tuesday. I just got back from a really nice vacation in Aruba. It was fantastic. It was my first time going. Really beautiful there, such great weather. Not really happy to be back home. Definitely planning a trip back there soon, but hope everyone else is doing well. Lots to talk about today. Really looking forward to this episode, introducing my guest that I have with you today on the show, former Celtic and now women's college basketball coach, J.R. Giddens. How are you doing today?
I'm good, Gabby. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for hopping on here with me. I know it was definitely sometimes hard to schedule these things, so I appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to do this.
No, thanks for having me on. We're here now, so let's get to it.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. No, appreciate having you on. I know, you have definitely an interesting, unique story in terms of your career, kind of where things are at for you now. So in terms of basketball for you, obviously you were drafted to the Celtics right after they won a championship. So I could imagine that in itself presented some challenges for you. What was that like being drafted onto a team that had just won the NBA Finals?
Well, I don't think there's really anything that can prepare you for that unless you just won a national championship in college or something. You got a chance to experience that. But no, it was a wonderful experience and a great organization, top to bottom. Obviously, as you know, very historic. Unfortunate for the game last night for the Celtics. I think they'll battle back for next game. They're going to make some adjustments. But no, it was a roller coaster, man. And being 23 years old, I always tell a lot of stories from my 2 years with the Celtics. Fun times for sure.
Yeah, no, that's really good. Definitely, I feel like being part of such a historic franchise like that too in itself is probably pretty cool. That had a lot of good success in their history.
Yeah, no, I learned a lot from my 2 years there. It was wonderful times. I wish I'd have got some more playing time, but it was I understand it's tough on a team like that, especially when they have so many veterans off a championship and you're a young guy. But amazing 2 years there, man. I saw why that organization is very historic, top to bottom, very classy organization.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely can be unfortunate with the playing time. Do you think that a lot of that had to do with timing and just the fact that they had just come off of a championship, focusing on another championship run? Do you think that that was kind of the biggest factor when it came to that?
Yeah, I think that was one of the factors, especially, I think the veterans in front of me, nobody had less than about 7 years in the league. And it was my first year other than, the young guys, Bill Walker and Gabe Pruitt. We were still the young crew. I wouldn't consider them the veterans. But, yeah, I mean, they were trying to repeat and go back to back for good reason. They had an amazing team. Unfortunately, we fell short that year, but it was an amazing experience, man. I learned a lot in that year.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like the learning experience is obviously probably the most important part, but what was it like kind of being around guys like, Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, guys like that we look back at now and are like these are, legendary Celtics that kind of people associate a lot with the Celtics organization.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're Hall of Famers, and that's certain. I mean, we could throw Ray Allen in there, Doc Rivers. I remember Rasheed Wallace was there my second season. Marquise Daniels, Tony Allen, Eddie House, a lot of good players. Brian Scalabrine. So being around and being in the company with ball players like that, and just seeing how they were from on the court, off the court, and we had a lot of battles that season. It was an amazing experience, man. Very good group of guys.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, obviously, looking back at that, little did we know that it was going to be a while after that before the Celtics win another championship. I mean, fingers crossed that maybe that's this year, but it's definitely looking back on that as kind of the last championship season that the Celtics had. Going into the organization right after that, I can imagine being able to learn from guys who just all won a championship together must have been a really good experience for you in your young part of your career, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it was a really good experience. Like I said, man, just seeing how Paul prepared for the game, and Rondo was still young at that time, but he was playing really good basketball, and just a lot of great coaches on that staff. Tom Thibodeau was on that staff, or Tyronn Lue was on that staff. Sam Cassell was on that staff. So it was a staff of really really good coaches.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, guys who have had a lot of success coaching in the league too, you looking back on it now. So being able to play under those guys, I could imagine just helped you to learn a lot.
Yeah, I learned a lot in my 2 years. I can say that for sure. Very blessed.
Yeah. And what is Doc Rivers like? Like what was it like kind of playing under him?
Um, I always kind of speak specific when I talk about that. It was different for me, especially just not getting a chance to play. I mean, I just think that it wasn't a good fit for me with him. Being there just to stay, classy. I just don't think that was a good fit for me and Doc. Now that I'm a coach and I
Yeah.
speak a little differently. Yeah, we just wasn't a good fit for me and him.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes it's not always going to work. It's not always going to be the best combination, and that's why I feel like sometimes players succeed better in other organizations, than different ones because sometimes the organization they're in just isn't the right fit.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
Else,
a win. Being a coach, I'd say this, you gotta hope that, or being a player, you gotta hope that coach falls in love with your game, because if they don't have any, if they don't like your game, then they're not going to play you in their system, and that's unfortunate. No matter whether you're talented or not, maybe you just don't fit, or maybe they just don't like the way you play or your game. It just depends on that person coaching, that coach personally, and so for me, it was an unfortunate situation with the Celtics.
yeah. Yeah, that's definitely too bad, but also at the same time, it's nice to have gotten that experience because you were given that opportunity to play in the NBA and be part of an organization like that.
Yeah, no, I mean, no doubt. I was very blessed to be drafted by the Celtics. Shout out to Danny Ainge. I mean, it
Yeah.
was, like I said, it was a wonderful experience, especially being drafted to the World Champions. And you're 20. I was 23 coming out of college. It was a so real experience. Like Kevin Garnett went from being on my dorm room wall to like being in the locker room next to me. It was crazy. Paul Pierce. I mean, the names go on. It was a really amazing experience.
Yeah, guys you look up to
Yeah,
growing up, as a basketball player and then being able to play alongside those guys, I can't even imagine that feeling.
yeah. I mean, it was so real. Like I said, it went from 0 to 100 real quick.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah, your life just changes that quickly. It's crazy.
Man, crazy.
But yeah, I know college, I know you transferred when you were in college.
Mhm.
Um, in terms of that whole situation, what kind of ultimately led to that decision to transfer, partway through your college career?
Well, I spent 2 years at Kansas, and it's just time for a fresh start. I think after my sophomore year, it was just better that I had a fresh start somewhere else, and it ended up working out for me. And I've been here where I live now in New Mexico. That's my home now. I'm a Lobo, so it was a good situation for me. I was fortunate enough to come out here and play and reinvent myself, change my game, and be able to get Player of the Year and get drafted to the Celtics. So yes, New Mexico was a good change for me.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm a huge college basketball fan. I grew up really close to UConn, so I've always been a big UConn and Big East basketball fan. And it's just fun to see some of those players just really succeed in college and then watch what they can do in the NBA after that. Players you really follow through their college career and then just hope that they can succeed at the professional level. So that's what I really like about college. You have these guys that are, up
Yeah.
and coming that could do really big things in the league. And it's cool when that actually happens and they're able to be successful in the NBA.
Yeah, no, it's a very cool experience for sure, man. I'm always going to be a fan of basketball, college basketball, and just seeing how some of these young, talented ball players shape up and have great NBA careers. It's definitely a good thing to watch, because you want them to be successful, but you never know what's going to happen. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah. No, definitely. I mean, that's the cool thing about college basketball too. They play with so much heart and they have so many goals that they want to achieve. A lot of them are trying to, model after players that they look up to that are in the NBA. And so that's what makes these guys so fun to watch at that level.
Yeah, and the young kids, they're still somewhat innocent. College is college. We all know that, but they haven't seen that pro level of basketball, whether it's in the league or overseas, and you can see that little giddiness to them. So it's definitely fun to see how those young athletes transition into their professional dreams.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. And I mean, speaking of that, that is what you do now because you are on the coaching side. So what made you want to get into coaching?
Um, So funny, I was in Argentina one season, and I went from Argentina to the Dominican Republic. And if anybody knows Argentina, sometimes you're practicing twice a day, whether you have a game the next day or not. Like you're gonna practice twice a day. And so then I go to the Dominican Republic. So I'd hurt my hamstring. I played in probably like 130 games. My hamstring was beat up. So I came home and I was home for about a few months to heal up for extra time to get my hamstring ready. I started coaching second graders. And in that time, man, it was just crazy. We ended up having a successful season. And I was just doing little things. Like I would stay after and watch all the second grade teams play in our league, and then I would recruit. I'd be like, hey, so I put like a super second grade team together, and we were just kicking butt out here, and I really found like my joy for coaching, and it kind of clicked to me, and I'm like, you know what, like I've played ball all these years, in college and professionally, why wouldn't I, transition off into coaching? I know a lot of athletes don't do that, and it's not as common, and so for me, it didn't dawn onto me, and then it hit, and I was just like, I love this. I feel like I got a lot of information, and your coach second grade is differently from the way I coach my college team and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, you're a teacher, and having 5 years of college experience and then 12 years of professional experience, that's 17 years after high school. And so it's like, I feel like, after, like playing with the Celtics and playing for, Bill Self, Steve Alford, high level Europe and Latin America, I've seen basketball, so many different styles, so many different levels. And I think I've learned a lot. And, I'd like to transition that into helping these young athletes with their basketball journey, because I feel like I've had every emotion that they've had, but more importantly, I love this game and I love teaching it to the young athletes. And it's just, I feel like I have my dream job. I have the best job in the world. I wake up and I go teach basketball. So it's really I'm really blessed to be able to have that transition from professional athlete to retired athlete. Now I'm into coaching, and my body's thanking me too. I'm not running and playing and
Yeah.
in 20 games a year. I get to, lift weights to try to be a little bit more vain. I don't have to just work on my basketball muscles. So, man, I'm enjoying retirement, even though coaching, we don't have a life, and I'm working my butt off every day. And but it's a different side of being on a different side of the sidelines, of the game that I love, and seeing it from a different perspective. And I got a whole new respect for coaches. And now, I had to call a couple of my college coaches to be like, hey, man, I'm sorry, man. Like, my bad. I get it now. I get it. So, yeah, one time.
That's so funny. Yeah, I get where you were coming from in that situation.
Coach, I'm sorry. Coach, I am sorry. Okay? Jeez.
Yeah, there's something to be said for that too. First of all, I mean, obviously that's the goal, is to love what you do and being happy with what you're doing. And for you, it's still a good way to be involved with the game that you love. But like you said, your body likes this route better. And it gives you a whole new perspective on coaching, and what it's like from a coach's perspective.
Yeah, and that's why sometimes, I think all players are going to say their coach is crazy. If you ask the ladies on my team, that they'll say the same thing. But there are little things that I don't think that they see that I'll do. Like, I'll know that, we just came off a hell of a road trip, and we should be practicing at like 8 a.m. or 9 a.m., especially after, maybe we just weren't focused and locked in. But I'll be a little courteous and be like, you know what, instead of an 8 a.m. practice, let's go at like 2. Because I know they're tired. We got in early that morning. Let's let them sleep in a little bit. They'll probably have a better attitude. Body's got a few more hours of rest and stuff like that. So I'll do things as a coach that, I wish some of my coaches did. Like if a girl's knee sore or something, and I'm like, you know what? She's probably pretty not going to be able to practice tonight for a few hours. It might be better just for her to sit on the side, maybe get her some light jump shots, ice her knee, do some rehab, walk through, sit close to the court, understand everywhere we're going to go. Because when my knee was a little shaky or I had something, I'm like, man, I'm not trying to practice 50 hours, 12 hours before this game. Well, not 12, but a few hours. Like, I think I need to, rest my body a little bit. Like, I know what I'm doing at this point. Like, so I do those little things to try to help my players and just to play better. Anything you can do as a coach to help your players have an edge, that's what you want. You're there to help them. You're there to win games, and I'm trying to do my best to help them.
Yeah, definitely. And that's good too, because if you do things like that for them, it's going to make them, enjoy playing for you more, because they'll be like, wow, he understands where we're coming from in certain situations. And I feel like being able to relate to them is probably a big thing about the coaching side.
Yeah, it is. Like, so year one was COVID for me, so I didn't get a season, but I was coaching, doing, the paperwork, recruiting, and now year two I actually had a season, so I got a lot to learn, and that's one thing that I realized that when I was playing, I had a certain hunger for the game, and now coaching, I had that same hunger, but it's kind of like being a rookie all over again. I realize I don't know a lot of stuff, and I need to learn.
Yeah, it's definitely so much different from being a player, I would imagine. I mean, there's just it's just different. But what are some of the biggest challenges you faced being a coach as opposed to being a player?
Well, you got to realize when you're a key player on your team, okay, your performance is needed. You got to come out there and do your thing. But as a coach, the biggest thing is now, I got to prepare my team for the game. And depending on how much preparation you have, whether it's a night or it's a week, they're going to be as prepared as I make them. So just your scouting report has to be thorough. Your film, I want to know what they're running, if we run a zone or if we run a man, or what they're going to run versus us. And so it's like you got to prepare these young athletes for this other team. And they just wake up and come to practice. It's your job to watch the film. It's your job to know the strengths and the weaknesses of the team, and to come up with that strategy as well as in-game adjustments. And when I was playing, most of the time I kind of knew if I had been on a team for a long time, then I would know all the players' positions in their plays. And as a coach, you got to know everybody's position, offensively, defensively, the rotations, because you're the person that's having to tell them where they need to be or when they're making these mistakes. So you don't just know where the point guard's supposed to be. You got to know the 1 through 5, and then you got to know how you can talk to this child or this student athlete compared to how you can talk to her teammate. And so that challenge to me is just learning my team, learning how to be better, and just learning from my mistakes and realizing, coaches mess up too, but you got to come out there that next day and you really got to be that backbone for your team. Whether your best player is injured or out there or not, your job is to have your team prepared, and you got to manage relationships as well. And so it's a whole lot. And then the level that I'm at the NAIA level, we got to do paperwork, so I got to feel, if we go on a trip, I got to get the vans for the trip. I got to get the purchase request form done and make sure our budget for this trip is approved. And then you got to keep up with them all on the road. Make sure you don't lose a child in Walmart. We got the buddy system. Whenever we go out to eat, it's like, buddy, okay, everybody got their buddy. All right, let's get on this road. So it's a whole lot of responsibilities, and it's a grind, and I love it. But I got a lot more work to do now as a coach than when I was playing.
Yeah. Yeah. There's so much more responsibility involved with being a coach, and so many more people that you have to worry about. As a player, it's a little bit different, because you have to focus on your individual performance and how it's contributing to the team, but it's not your responsibility as much what somebody else is doing on the team,
Yeah, as well as, like sometimes as a player, you can be in the game and you can be like, you know what, I'm about to turn this on right now. Like, I'm about to make some plays. Let's go, Giddy. Let's go. Let's get it. And then as a coach, you can't do that. Like, you're helpless. You can call plays, do whatever. Like, you might call 3 plays in a row and they mess it up, and you be like, you know what, scrap this play today. I got to run something that they can run. So that's that challenge. Like, you're still the puppet master, but you have zero control out there. Zero control. It's on them, and you really got to, trust off in them and try to guide them to this win. So it's different.
Yeah. No, for sure. And it definitely probably can be really challenging, but really rewarding at the same time, like you kind of indicated before earlier. Um, yeah, no, that's definitely I can imagine how challenging that could be. What kinds of things do you tell your players in order to help them be able to bounce back after a tough game or a bad loss or something like that?
Um, a lot of things, like sometimes we beat ourselves, on my team anyway. Sometimes we beat ourselves, and it's just, you're trying to put your team in a good headspace, and and help them and let them understand, like, hey, we're in NAI, we'll schedule a Division 1 team. It's a guaranteed game they pay us to play, and we'll get kicked, and you got to help your girls recover after that. But then sometimes it's the opposite when you got to light a fire on them, and you just got to know your team and know the heartbeat of them. I think that's something I got to get better at. Being my first year, I was more of coaching instead of making sure I was building those relationships with my players and knowing how to do things. So coaching is a challenge, especially when you're young like me, man. You're making a lot of mistakes, and sometimes the mistakes that you make are costly. So you just gotta try to stay locked in. And like I said, it's all about them and help.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, for sure. It's I feel like it's a lot of just being able to know what to say to them and how like what direction you want to take that conversation, you know what I mean? Because I feel like there's so many different types of things you could say in that situation. It's just kind of being able to read the room and know, okay, how do I want to approach this right now?
yeah, no, for sure. That's for certain, man. It's like I said, it's managing your team, managing relationships. Like, for example, my team every Monday we're sluggish. So I used to just be like, "Come on, we just came off the weekend. Let's go, I'm all." And then I realized, like, you know what? Don't matter whether I think they partied or didn't party, whatever. Like, they're just gonna be sluggish on a Monday. Let's just get through this day and try to have a great mental day. This isn't a day that I can really push them, and I had to learn that with my team. And took me about 70% of the season to figure that out, but better late than never.
Yeah, I mean, it's something you learned along the way, you know. There's always going to be things to learn. There's always going to be those curves, you know.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
yeah, and I feel like that's huge in college, the mental aspect too, because there's so much that these players have going on outside of basketball too, you know, with their schoolwork and maybe other things just going on in their personal lives. So being able to understand that, you know, that mental aspect is just so important to keep them locked in.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely, like I said, that mental health is wealth, and I think we have a better understanding of that in 2022, and you've seen how even the mental health has affected some of the NBA players, the most talented players in the world and highest paid, and so that mental health definitely trickles down to all of us in all aspects of life, and especially in sports. That the first ability is availability. Danny Ainge actually said that to me. The best ability is availability. But then after that, you got to be mentally strong enough to play and handle what's going on. And sometimes you can just, that transition from high school at the level that I'm at, high school to college, some people just mentally can't handle it. And, it's say, I wasn't a fit for Dr. Rivers. Kids aren't a fit to be on my team. And you have time. You just want to try to stay even and start that coach and to try to provide the coach. That's all you can really control is that culture that you put out there every day. You can't control to get them to concentration, but you can provide that culture that they're in and try to help them get to be the best versions of themselves.
Yeah, and I feel like that's a really good point too that you know, some people just can't handle it and that's why I feel like you see some players not be able to succeed at the higher levels just because there's just so much going on and so much pressure on you and there's just a lot that comes with, you know, being an athlete at that level and so I feel like it's just a lot of people you see just not make it because of that whole idea of they just can't handle it, you know, and it's unfortunate, but there's just so much involved when it comes to being an athlete at that level.
Yeah, there is, and like I said, I'm so new to coaching. I've just realized that it's like some people are very mentally strong and some people are not mentally strong. And you could tell if they had a coach off in high school to where they let them do whatever they wanted and didn't hold them accountable. Because, sometimes you could just be coaching somebody, holding them accountable and showing them film. And they might think that you're treating them unfairly. And it's like, this is film. This is you. We're trying to learn from your mistakes. Like, it's not a time to be like, well, coach, I thought this and that. Well, look, this is what I wanted to happen. This is how it should have happened. This is what you did. Let's learn from this and let's move on. Like even sometimes a film session with the coaches, it's still hard for some of these athletes to mentally get there, even when you're showing them. And that's when you got to realize, basketball isn't for everybody.
Yeah, it's true. It's not. It's really not. It's not for everybody. Yeah, I mean, it's obviously it's a tough sport to play, tough sport to be able to maintain, that level of stress that comes with it, and be able to focus yourself on a day-to-day basis, and be able to be involved with something like that regularly, even at the professional level. I'm sure, like you said before, a lot of players could struggle with that. So it's definitely a challenge, I feel like, to have to, you know, stabilize yourself and get yourself focused game to game. And I know you mentioned the idea of beating yourselves sometimes. I feel like that's a huge thing. And I feel like we've even seen that with the Celtics in this playoffs. I mean, I've seen them beat themselves. Uh-oh. Looks like we lost him. I think he might have lost connection or something. But yeah, we'll see if he hops back on. If not, then we will just kind of go from there. But yeah, I mean, he said it well. I think, that having that mental capacity to be able to handle something like basketball, and be able to handle that stress is huge for athletes. It's tough. But yeah, I think we saw a lot of the Celtics beating themselves, which is kind of what I was going to lead into with him after this. I think when it comes to, yeah, the Celtics, here we go. Hello.
Hello again.
How's it going?
My phone overheated. Sorry.
Oh, it's okay. That happens. That definitely happens. Yeah, no, I was just going to bring up just the fact that with that idea of beating themselves, because I feel like the Celtics, we've seen do that a little bit, actually a lot, I'd say, in this postseason in general. Just with those committing those turnovers, sometimes forcing bad shots. Those are kind of things that can be prevented, and I feel like a lot of that has to do with the Celtics beating themselves. And I'm looking at games like last night for them as one of those very frustrating losses in a game that was a winnable game. And then they would make these mistakes that it's just a very frustrating game to come off of, and feel super confident going forward. I mean, I'm confident. I think that they will bounce back in game 6. But what were your overall thoughts on that game last night?
Well, I mean, you got to make free throws. You got to make plays. You got to not turn over the ball. I'm no analyst or anything, but JT looked really tired. I think Wiggins is doing a really good job of playing both sides of the floor, but really tiring him out and just making him have to earn everything. I think we saw that his shots were short, and it looked like his form was good, and maybe his legs just weren't there and his fatigue. I don't know if they're running out of gas or whatever, but I'm pretty sure he's about to try to recover and come back out because it's an elimination game. But they got to make adjustments, and you see a lot of games go to a game 7. So one team could get blown out one game or have a bad game that game, and the next day come out and win. And you got to expect the Warriors to win that because they're at home. And so they did what they were supposed to do. Now I think the Celtics, they go back to Boston now. Yep. Is
Yep.
it
Yeah,
back?
they
Yeah,
go back
they
to
go back
Boston.
to Boston. So things
Yeah.
are going to be different. The atmosphere is going to be crazy. Obviously, Adam Silver already commented that he gets it. From the Boston fans. No matter what the Warriors think is going to happen, they still got to go back off into the TD Bank Garden and get things popping. And I know Marcus Smart and the coach, or they're going to have them very well prepared. It's so funny. One of the coaches on the coaching staff for the Celtics, Aaron Miles, we played together at Kansas. So it's good to see him in a great organization like that.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, the free throws for sure is a really frustrating thing. You cannot be missing all those free throws in games like that. And that was one of the biggest things that cost the Celtics last night. And it was kind of crazy to me how close the game actually really was in the grand scheme of things, because the Celtics did not look good for the majority of the game.
And Chef Curry went 0 for 9.
Yeah.
First time he had made a three since 2018 in a game. So,
and that's why it's also disappointing that the Celtics couldn't take advantage of that either, because how often does that happen? Never,
Yeah, I don't want to use the word disappointing. I want to use unfortunate, because I think where they're at a team right now, I don't know if a lot of people saw them in this position. So it's, at the end of the day, they're achieving at a high level right now.
Yeah. And I mean, the Celtics are a young team still. People have to remember that too. They are still overall a pretty young team. I think obviously they made some great additions in this offseason this year, even at the trade deadline, too. But overall, though, that core is still relatively young. So they're going to be making some mistakes, but it just seems like so often this happens in games with the turnovers and the free throws and forcing up threes when they can drive to the basket more. And Jason Tatum overall, to me, has been inconsistent in the postseason, and that's been definitely disappointing for somebody like that, who's supposed to be a superstar in this league, is trying to be, and to be that inconsistent, and you're not really sure which version of him you're going to get game to game, has definitely been a concern for me too, because
that's where we differ. I think that who's the best player on the Celtics?
I mean, overall, Jason Tatum is supposed to be.
Well, he has his team in the finals with 2 wins right now. So it's, when you think about this is what I want you to understand. And even, Steph had an off night, and he's the greatest shooter of all time. He went 0 for 9 from 3. When the entire defense is geared to stop you, like, he's bound to have an off night. He has to take that pressure day in and day out. So him being human, he's got to have teammates that step up and do their job. Because I remember when we played versus LeBron, when I was at the Celtics, you got a playbook this big of knowing where he wants the ball at, where he shoots it at, good from. So it's like, I think he's doing a good job, especially because he's not even, one of the oldest players in the league. He's one of the young and up and coming players, taking a team like that, and with the first year head coach, to the finals. Like, he's 2 games away from being a world champion, or he's 1 game away from learning how it is to try to win in the finals versus one of the greatest dynasties. And if you look at the competition that he's going versus, and the Celtics, like, experience level versus the Warriors experience level, like, one player on the Warriors has more experience than the whole entire team of the Celtics, especially with a lot of the guys that they have that aren't just the big name guys, and they're still going out there and getting it done. I think obviously you want him to be more consistent. I get where you're coming from, but for him to have his team in the position that they've been at right now, nobody bet on this except some crazy Celtics fan in a Boston basement talking about my Celtics are going to be in the finals this year.
Like, I don't know if you've seen it, but there was that guy that got that tattoo. Yeah, that was just randomly like Celtics 2022 World Champs.
Yeah, no, I saw that. That was crazy, man.
That keeps going around social media now too, because everybody knows about it, because it's like, wow, this guy got this tattoo so long ago that he just randomly decided one day, I'm going to get this tattoo and like speak it into existence.
I mean, once you put that energy out to the world, I'm a firm believer in that. You put that energy out there, it's not always going to come back, but it is sometime. That vibe that you walk with, that aura that you have in life. You got to go out there with a positive one, and hey, good vibes. I hope that you guys can turn it around. I'm not going for either team. Everybody always comes up to me and it's like, "Who you going for, Boston?" And I'm like, no, I just want to see good basketball. Honestly, I have love for Boston. You know what I'm saying? And but I just want to see some good basketball. So hopefully you guys turn it around, because I know if you guys turn this around and win, Boston is gonna go ape shit.
Oh, yep. Everyone's everyone's anxiously waiting for the opportunity to do that, especially I think too, just because of how long it's been since the Celtics have won a championship too. So from that standpoint, people have just been waiting. And so knowing that they have that opportunity now, everybody's just on the edge of their seat waiting for the opportunity to be able to celebrate that. And I feel like going up against a team like Golden State, you knew it was going to be a tough series. Like you said, they have the experience. They're a really, really tough basketball team to play. So we knew it was going to be a tough series. And even just with the Celtics coming out of the Eastern Conference was tough this year. And so I feel like the fact that they were able to beat teams like, the defending champs, Milwaukee, being able to beat teams like Miami, who was looking really, really good going into the postseason too. Those are solid wins against good teams.
And that's when JT was at his best. Your guy, yeah. Mr. Inconsistent.
I mean, when he has bad shooting nights, everybody explodes. But yeah, I mean, you're right, though. Other people don't show up either when he's not having a good shooting night is also the problem. I mean, people like Marcus Smart, Rob Williams, like people like that, those are their opportunity to be able to kind of do their job, because obviously other defenses are looking at Jason Tatum like, we need to contain this guy.
Yeah, no, and that's what they get those big checks for. People don't realize is, for me, I don't give a hoot if you're a role player. You're in the league making millions of dollars. You're at the highest level. You should be able to make plays, So look at the basket, get some rebounds, play some defense, contribute to the team in any way. But if you're out there on that court, whether Jason Tatum has the majority of the plays for him, like you said, other players got to step up. They got to make plays because, that's who they're trying to stop. That's who the system is trying to stop. They're doing everything they can to slow him down, throwing multiple defenders at him, multiple defensive schemes. And so in that situation, other players got to step up. And you've seen that happen with the Warriors. And right now, it's not who has the best individual player on the team and who has the best team. And the Warriors right now, they're up for a reason in this series.
Yeah, and that's something that has helped the Celtics get this far, because I think when you look at teams like Brooklyn, they have some talented individuals on that team, but I think the Celtics play better as an overall collective unit, which is why they were able to kind of do what they did against the Nets. And obviously, there's a reason they beat Milwaukee and Miami too. When they're really playing as a collective unit, they show why they are here and why they deserve to be here. And obviously their defense is one of the biggest reasons why they're here as well.
Yeah, I mean, any team that's in the finals, defense is going to be a big factor while they're there. And as we say this, for the Celtics, you better make your next move your best move, because it's time.
I mean, it has to. There's no other option right now.
There is no tomorrow. There is no tomorrow.
This is literally like you need to play your best basketball in Game 6. I mean, there's no choice at this point, but it helps that they'll be back home for Game 6. I mean, they'll have the TD Garden crowd. I think it's going to be really electric. And one thing I will say about the Celtics team, I mean, the fact that last night was the first time in this entire postseason that they had lost back-to-back games, I think shows a lot about the resiliency of this team and their ability to be able to bounce back after losses, because they literally were undefeated after a loss in this playoffs until last night. So that's another thing I feel like to keep in mind too, is this team knows how to make adjustments, and Ime obviously knows how to make adjustments as well. So that's another thing that I'm looking at for Game 6, is I think there will be adjustments made. And I do feel like I think they come back home and they even the series again in Game 6. Then obviously anything can happen in Game 7.
Yeah, well, I mean, I hope that works out for you and for fans, because we all like Game 7s better anyway. That would be an amazing story. So, yeah. But, again, I'm so impressed by Boston, because they figured out a way to win and just be clicking and playing their best ball at the right time of the year. And they got another 1 or 2 games to go out there and try to play the best ball of their lives, and maybe they can be world champions again. Green beer for everybody,
Yeah, I mean, that city of Boston is going to be so fun to be in if they win the whole thing this year. I mean, right. Like I need to be present for that parade if they do end up winning, because that's just going to be so cool for everybody if they do win.
Yeah, it's going to be ridiculous.
I mean, yeah, I mean, and even just especially with how they started, how the first half of the season went for them, and they were just not playing well at all in the first half. They had a lot of adjustments they had to make. I think having a first-year coach was a factor in that too. I think he had to learn some things about being the head coach of this team, how to work with these players. But the turnaround that they had in the second half of the season to end up where they are now is pretty impressive if you look back on all that too, just what they overcame in the second half of the season to really turn things around and end up in the finals.
Yeah, I mean they're truly an inspiration right now, and it's glad to see it. I'm glad to see it happening in an organization for a town like Boston.
Yeah, and that's why obviously it'll be disappointing for all of us if they don't win the whole thing at this point, but also at the same time, we do need to keep in mind that, again, everything we talked about, this is a young team and nobody expected to get them as far as they did. And it's giving them that finals exposure so that they can come back next year and they have that experience of knowing what it's like to be in the finals. And there's no shame in losing to a Warriors team that's as talented as they are either and has that experience. Even if you can get them to a game 7, that's just in itself, people should be impressed with and happy about that. So from that standpoint, there are some positives we can take away from it if they do end up losing in this series and can't close it out.
Yeah, they're definitely going to learn from that. I've lost in the finals overseas a few times, and in the last game of the finals, trust me, it's tough. People rushing the court, they taking all the pictures and stuff. It's definitely going to be a learning experience and a lot of motivation, especially having a young core. I imagine that'll probably be the best off season a lot of them have ever, and their most focused off season that they've probably ever had in their life.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's why, there's definitely positives to take away from it either way, but I do really feel like they'll come back in game 6 and they'll be able to win that one at home, force a game 7 back in San Francisco. I don't know if my anxiety would like that too much, but from an exciting basketball standpoint, I think people would enjoy a game 7.
Yeah, I mean, who doesn't like a game 7? So we'll see what happens. Time will tell. Time will tell.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'll just be stressed out the next couple days until that game actually happens, but I'll manage. I'll deal with that.
I'll be worry free, just ready to be a basketball fan and see wherever the game takes us.
Yeah, I keep telling people, the people who just don't really, just don't really care who wins, it doesn't really matter either way. I'm like, that must be nice. You can watch it stress free without having to just worry about your team constantly.
The crazy thing is everything's nice because if you're cheering for the Celtics and one of the Warriors players makes a cold shot, it's bittersweet because you can't celebrate it. When you're not going for either team, it's like, oh wow, yeah, all game you're just being a fan, watching good basketball. And I mean, whether I was going for one team, I would still enjoy plays from both sides. But I mean, when you want your team to win, now that those big Andrew Wiggins buckets are just not the same. You're like, God dang it, Andrew. So I feel you. I feel for you. I feel for you.
I'm getting like angry on the side. I'm just like watching all of that and just getting really frustrated.
Yeah, you're in the hot seat right now. You're in the hot seat.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, this the series is not over yet, as we all know. I mean, this is a team that can bounce back. We've seen them do it multiple times. I think this next game is going to be a really good game, but I do think that they bounce back in game 6 and they win it.
I want to know who's going to be in attendance for this game 6 at Boston. Like, who else is going to be there? Like, is Paul going to come back like he did the other game? Did you hear that comment he said? I'm not the biggest Paul Pierce fan. Have nothing against him though, but they were like, Paul, where's your wheelchair? He's like, yeah, it's at home next to my championship trophy. I love that. The clapback was real. And Paul's going to tell it how it is. We could see that man. He's going to do whatever he wants to do whenever he wants to do it. So that was hilarious. I really enjoyed that clapback at the fans. Like, yeah. I got my ring. I got my trophy.
Yeah, like, come at me. Like,
calm down.
That's funny. That's hilarious. Yeah, I mean, I want him to go. I think he should go. I think he definitely should go to the game.
He's probably going to be there. It'd be nice to see other people in attendance there as well, just to have that atmosphere super litty,
Yeah. Yeah. And the fans will show up. That place is going to be completely full. And Boston fans, are so passionate. They're going to be there. They're going to do their job as fans during this game. So now it's just a matter of bounce back, make adjustments from game 5 and come out and take care of business at home. And then anything can happen in game 7.
Yeah. Well, you guys got, like I said, you guys got some work to do. We're gonna see what happens. When is the next game exactly?
Thursday.
Thursday, yeah, we're gonna see what happens Thursday. So they better recover. You know, if I was Jason Tatum, I'd be getting all the ice baths, massages, sleeping in a hyperbaric chamber, all of that, so he could have all of his legs. Because if he doesn't, I'll say this: if he doesn't have those breakout games like he did in the Eastern Conference Finals, then he doesn't play the best ball. Then I don't see it happening for the Celtics. You know, unless I don't know if Al Horford will have 30 that night or Marcus Smart. I guess whenever he scores 18 or more, you guys are what, 18-2?
Yeah, they
18
win
and 2?
most of the time when Marcus
Yeah.
Smart has a good shooting night.
So their core is all gonna have to show up in order for you guys to win. Regardless if Steph's on, if Clay's on, regardless, you guys, this core, your primary players, they're gonna have to show up and put it down.
Yep, and Al Horford's so fun. He just has these random nights where he just comes out and explodes, and it's just so fun. He's been such a good addition this year. I'm so glad to have him back in Boston. He likes playing in Boston, he said, and I think just being able to have that veteran presence with him there has been really good for this team.
Yeah, I mean, there's a very big Dominican presence out there in Boston too. Funny
Yeah.
thing is now I played in the Dominican Republic. My son's Dominican. He's half Dominican anyway. So
Yeah.
yeah, I learned how to speak Spanish. I know how to speak Spanish when I was in Boston, but now I know how to speak Spanish because he's 5 now. He doesn't know too much English. So I'm probably like 80-85% fluent in Spanish. I could clean it up here and there, but yeah, if you want to hablar conmigo todo el tiempo en español, no problema, hablar conmigo, no pasa nada.
I might need to take some Spanish lessons from you now.
Posible, sí.
That'd be cool. That'd be fun. That'd be fun.
Yeah, that would be definitely. It's fun knowing a different language for sure. It's definitely been eye opening to me. Plus, I live in New Mexico too, so they speak a lot of Spanish out here. So it helps. Some days I just speak in Spanish. I don't even speak English, and I'm living in America. It's crazy. Feel like I'm overseas again.
No, that's awesome. It's definitely really good to have a second language too. You can just interact with more people and be able to communicate better in general. So I feel like just having a second language that you can speak fluently is cool and it's important.
Yeah, definitely.
So I might be hitting you up about that, about the Spanish lessons.
Hey, if you ever need anything translated, just let me know. I got you. I translate is better, but if you're ever in person, like sometimes my friends will call me and they'll be like, "What's this person saying?" I'll be like, "Hold on, wait." He said, so it's fun to be the translator, especially out here. Some people, like I said, some people don't speak English, so it's good just to be in those situations because I can understand that person and we can have a conversation and understand each other perfectly. So it works out.
Yeah. No, that's definitely a really cool thing. So definitely something that I'm adding to my list of things to do as well.
Yeah, it was crazy because I ran out of gas one time. I'm that guy. I run out of gas maybe like once or twice a year, just talking on the phone and just what happened. And the people that had picked me up, they were well, I'm in New Mexico. They were from that pulled over to help me. They were from Mexico, and we were just speaking Spanish. And it was a time to where if I didn't know any Spanish, it would have been an awkward situation. But since I knew Spanish, it was perfect. Saved myself.
Yeah. See, that's a real life situation, everybody, where that could actually really happen. So that's the reason why it's important to be able to learn a second language. It could get you out of some serious situations.
Yeah, it can. I need to and look. It makes me think. I'm like, I'm that guy. Like my car says like 15 miles. I will ride that thing until it says 3, and then I'll pull over. I need to start pulling over when it says like 50 or 100. But at least I knew Spanish should get me out the last time, so no problems.
Well, I'm definitely going to take that advice too, because that's even more a reason for me to learn Spanish
Yeah,
fluently. So
for
maybe
sure.
then I can start doing some episodes in Spanish.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be nice because you'll probably be able to get some international players that want
Yeah.
to do this with you, and y'all can speak in Spanish. And because I do some, we have. I'm in northern New Mexico. We have like a whole lot of international students in our athletic program, and we were doing a podcast, and he was from Brazil, so he's doing it in Portuguese, and so
Wow.
he's going back and forth and stuff like that. But it'd been nice to be able to speak with him like I could speak with other people in Spanish. So unfortunate, I don't know Portuguese.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I know. If you did though, it would have been really cool.
Yeah, it was because I didn't know. I knew a few things that he was saying because it was similar to Spanish, but it's always nice to speak the same language and be able to communicate. Communication is key in life.
Yes, it really absolutely is. Yep, communication is one of the most important things in life. So if you can do that with people who speak different languages, it's just going to help you, you know?
It actually helped me in the later years of my career because I'm playing with some teammates that don't speak English. Some of your teammates know it, some of them don't. And when you're in the heated moments of the game, crucial times, it's better that I can go over there and speak to them and we can talk and we can communicate about what's going on in the game instead of calling over a translator and trying to figure that out and get them to say something to him, and you might not even be able to get the translator to come over and speak because you're in the middle of the game. So it definitely helped me towards the later parts of my career. And then the cussing too, like, hey, give me the motherfucking ball. But I can say it in Spanish.
That's
I
great.
don't know if that helped me. So it's kind of a plus
That's
and
fantastic.
a negative, like, because I can say pass me the ball in Spanish.
I love that. That's so funny. Well, I mean, definitely could help a lot of people, I feel like.
No, for sure. It's definitely good to be bilingual, whether it's Spanish, French, or something. You'll probably run off into somebody at some point in your life to where to help that situation. So,
Yeah. Well, thank you. I really appreciate that advice for sure. I'll definitely take that into consideration in the future. Um, and I appreciate you hopping on the show with me as well.
no, thanks for having me on. Especially with the Celtics being really successful right now. Hopefully, it's good and people tune in and they listen to my version of me being a Celtic, and hopefully, some of the stuff that I said today can help some of these young athletes or coaches with their coaching and playing journey.
Yeah, no, definitely. It was definitely a very good conversation. Sorry, I have like a bit of a cough. Everyone, appreciate you tuning in to the show as always. Definitely feel yeah, seriously. Definitely check it out wherever you listen to your podcast. And I hope everyone has a great rest of your week. Go Celtics, most importantly. And I will talk to you all very soon.
I
See
still got my clover. That's my Celtics clover. But
you.
yeah, thanks for having me on, man, and good luck, man. Shoot, if you guys win, it's not gonna make a difference. It'll make us. I would rather the Celtics win than the Warriors, honestly. But I'm not
There
cheering.
we go. There's the truth.
Yeah, yeah. Don't tell me about
Now, finally, at the end of the show.
it. Right.
Well, I hope everyone has a great rest of your day, and I will talk to you all soon.
All right. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you.